Hi, I'm Morgan.
And I'm Jake, and this is
Neverland Navigation Radio.
where we take a fantastical journey into some fun stories from Walt Disney World's past.
Yeah, we love the history of Walt Disney World. Well, and Disneyland. All of Disney.
Yeah, it's a big part of our podcast, and this episode will be no different. We're going to launch right into some stories from the history of Fantasyland. Morgan and I both took something that we thought was interesting from the past of Disney parks, and we're going to give you a little short form essay summary of what we learned doing research.
Yeah.
Fantasyland is a big topic, turns out. There have been so many attractions throughout the history of Fantasyland at Disneyland, Walt Disney World. There have been so many attractions, and there are a lot that hold special places in our hearts from our childhoods, I think, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that this is the quintessential kid spot for me. I know that there was always some version of what I'm going to call Toontown right this second, although it's not called that now, but you know what I mean.
The area that is now Storybook Circus.
The area that is now Storybook Circus that has been by a lot of names is actually aimed towards kids. But when I think of my childhood, Fantasyland is you know what I mean?
Totally.
It's integral.
Do you remember Dumbo being in Fantasyland at Walt Disney World?
Yeah, it wasn't. I know it feels like a long time ago, but actually Bailey was little when it was still there.
Right.
Yeah.
Bailey is Morgan's daughter. Which 16. Is how we measure time on this podcast.
Yeah.
By how old Bailey was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was still there when she was 2. So
yeah, the whole Fantasyland kind of makeover is pretty recent in the grand scheme of the history of it all. But
yeah, but it also feels so long ago.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It feels like a long time ago when the Skyway was operating.
Yeah.
The Sky Buckets in Fantasyland.
Right.
Fantasyland to Tomorrowland and vice versa. I certainly have childhood memories of riding Snow White's Scary Adventure.
Yeah,
which
same.
is one that I very much consider doing. Did you have a hard time picking?
I did have a hard time picking.
Me too.
As a matter of fact, I was listing options and then asking my family what I should do and just this whole I couldn't decide.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to come back. We're gonna have to circle back around.
There are so many to pick from.
Yeah, you could actually find a pretty decent interesting history on anything, I guess. Yeah. But especially stuff like Fantasyland, because a lot of that stuff is so classic.
Yeah. And I could spend forever talking about classic dark rides.
Yes.
Dark rides are usually my favorite type of ride at Walt Disney World. Boat rides, dark rides, because it's all practical sets, it's all animatronics, it's all, it's all story.
I'm sure fans are familiar with that term, but in case they're not, it's that means just a slow moving, story driven ride.
Right. Spaceship Earth, Haunted Mansion, The Little Mermaid.
Snow White's Scary Adventure was, yes.
Not things like
Peter Pan is a dark ride, even though it flies.
Totally. A new kind of dark ride, but a dark ride nonetheless. Things that are not dark rides are some
roller coasters.
Roller coasters, the Speedway. That's definitely not a dark ride.
Right. Dumbo, yeah.
Even when it's dark out, that's not a dark ride.
Okay.
All right, Morgan. I'm gonna guess what you picked.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Could be dead wrong, but I'm gonna take a shot in the dark.
Okay.
I'm gonna channel my Madame Leota, seeing things from other dimensions.
All he knows is that I didn't pick what he picked.
Right.
We took efforts to make sure we didn't pick the same thing because that would be crazy.
We employ an independent verification service known as Morgan's husband, Michael, to make sure that we don't overlap. I'm gonna guess that you did Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Really? Yeah. How funny.
What a total stab in the dark.
Should I guess yours now, or do you want me to guess it when you do it?
Are you? Yes.
I guess I could go first and then.
That sounds great.
Okay, I have a guess.
I don't remember Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Okay, fair.
I did ride it in my lifetime, I'm told. I was told by my mom.
Sure.
But I have no memory of it. I now, as an adult Disney fan, have watched video of the attraction and know what the attraction is.
Sure.
But I know none of the history.
Well, and it still exists in Disneyland. So
Right.
so you still could ride it.
Wow, I gotta get myself over there.
Yeah.
Before it's gone.
The one in Disney World was a little bit different than the one in Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
The one that is in Disneyland,
Really?
which I will explain. Yeah.
I did assume they were clones.
Nope, they're not clones. Yeah.
I love that.
They tried to make improvements when they brought it to Disney World, which is, fantastic. Probably how it should be. Yeah, a little different. So yeah, you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, Morgan, take us on a wild ride.
Okay.
We won't be getting drunk first.
We will not. So in my podcast research that I did for this history, I also watched the Mr. Toad's Wild Adventure movie.
You did?
Yeah, the 30-minute.
I'm obsessed. That sounds like a lot of fun.
I had never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
You should watch it.
Really?
Well,
is it good?
Sure. Yeah. It's good in a classic way. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like high quality.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No. I don't mean like high resolution.
Okay.
Like, I mean like, wow, this was like hand drawn and stuff.
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
That kind of
I really love the beginning because they do like some stills kind of different animated shots, like they're from a book. Ooh, it's very, very classic.
I love stylistic
I
stuff
love
like that.
I love that too. The interesting part for me was, as somebody that's been on the rides, and I think that I remember the Disneyland version more than I remember the Disney World version, because of the Disney World version closing in, I believe, 1998.
Hold up. The Disney World version closed in 1998?
Let me double check my notes.
No, you might be right, but then my mom might be wrong, because I was born in 1998. So I think she might be misremembering that. I mean, there's no chance I wrote it.
She could have taken you, and you would have been a month old.
No way.
Okay.
Wow, Mom. What's up?
It closed in May 1998.
Either way, I don't remember it. So
wait. Hold on. Maybe
matter.
That's just when it was. They were told it was going to close. Hold on.
Either way, it's fine. She doesn't listen. She won't be offended.
Yeah.
She's not a podcast person.
Anyway, yeah.
She's very busy listening to the best of Fleetwood Mac.
So I don't want to sit here. Yeah.
That's okay.
Some people don't do podcasts, but
yeah. But not you guys though. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that.
We appreciate it.
So I'm just gonna jump in. Okay. So this was an opening day attraction for both Disneyland and Walt Disney World, which to me, when I found that out, was shocking, because it feels better than what I expect to be done in 1955.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Mr. Toad isn't necessarily what you think of as like iconic Disney enough for it to warrant being an opening attraction at two theme parks.
I can't really know what was iconic Disney or needing to be promoted in 1955.
That's so fair. Yeah.
Right.
We weren't around.
Right. 50. Yeah.
I'll ask my grandparents.
And it was actually they considered making this into a roller coaster, which is very interesting.
Why didn't they do that?
It would probably have fun. Yeah, it would probably have to have been kind of like a goofy type roller coaster.
Children's roller coaster,
I would imagine. Although I don't think that
sounds uncomfortable.
The story isn't. Yeah, the story isn't as child friendly. It's controversial because of the bar, because of the drinking.
Was it controversial at the time?
Yes.
Oh, even back then it was?
Yeah.
Even back when did it open in Disneyland?
I mean, imagine, because Walt Disney wouldn't even allow alcohol in the park.
Yeah.
So yes, a little. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
although it was clear whose side they were on.
What do you mean?
Like God or alcohol. You know what I mean? Because that's the frame of the story, basically, right? He gets judged for.
No, actually.
Is it not? Okay. I don't remember it. All I know is the lore.
This is the fascinating part for me, okay? So watching the show or the movie or whatever, 30 minutes short, what would you call this?
A short feature.
Okay.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that short.
Yes, because it is a 2-part movie or whatever that is an hour and 7 minutes, but half of that is the story of Sleepy Hollow.
Right, Ichabod Crane and all that.
And the other half is the story of Mr. Toad.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like
I didn't even know that.
It's broken up into two completely separate parts. Mr. Toad's not in the other part. Ichabod is not in this first part, but it's called The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Right.
Interesting, right? Okay.
Yeah, so, it's like double feature vibes.
So this 30-minute feature does not feature like him drinking and driving and going to hell, which is what I assumed based on the ride. So in the ride, you go through Toad Hall, which is where Mr. Toad lives. You wind up in a bar. There's like frothy beers being thrown in the air.
Why are they so frothy?
You go to court. You get sentenced. On your way to jail, it's like you run into a train and then you wind up in hell. Okay, interestingly enough, the movie or feature or whatever, that doesn't happen.
Okay.
So
the ride is like an original story?
It's a weird...
I'm obsessed.
Yes. So I
love that the Imagineers were like, you know what we need to do?
I deep dive trying to figure out why they would add this hell scene, because in the movie he doesn't go to hell.
Yeah, like why would you pick that as your original storyline?
And your ending to this, it's so weird to me.
It's like it's like an after school special.
Yeah. It is like that. I thought.
Yeah, it's like those Timon and Pumbaa
this will teach you.
Tapes.
Yeah, don't drink and drive. That's not what the movie's about.
What is the movie about?
Yeah, let me give you like a little overview, okay? So you meet Mr. Toad, you meet his three friends, you find out he's in a lot of financial trouble, and there are bill collectors banging on his door, and because he is very reckless with his money. He lives in this big, important hall called Toad Hall.
This frog is so reckless with his
spending. He's so reckless. And he has a horse friend. And he and his horse friend go caravanning about. They like to just go for drives for no reason. Okay. So the song in the ride, it goes like merrily, merrily, like we're traveling merrily, merrily, merrily to no place at all. Right. Like yes. It's just they're going around, but they're causing damage. So when one of his friends who's trying to help him with his bills is going through these bills, it's like damage for this, damage for this, damage for this. That's what all these bills are. Reckless behavior. Reckless. And his friends are trying to tell him, you need to stop being so reckless. You need to stop being friends with this horse. This horse is reckless.
That horse is bad news. You've changed, Mr. Toad.
Yeah, you're not the responsible owner of Toad Hall that you used to be. So then he sees a motor car on the road, and he was like, oh my gosh, what is that? And his eyes turn all spirally, and so it seems like he's an addict of, like, he's addicted to the speed adventure. Yeah, like first it was he was addicted to going out with this horse and being reckless and causing damage. And then he sees this motor car and he's like addicted to the idea of that. They keep saying, I think they're calling them obsessions in the movie or whatever. Okay. So he becomes obsessed with this motor car. So his friends are like, you cannot not have a motor car. We're going to lock you in your bedroom or you can't leave until this obsession is over.
That's a practical solution.
Yes.
I like these friends.
Yes. But he sneaks out the window.
Rapunzel.
Right. And then he winds up you see him in court. Okay. And they're accusing him of stealing a motor car. Okay. So then you find out, because the horse is talking about what happened, that he didn't actually steal the motor car. He went to this bar, and that's where the weasels were. Obviously, they're the bad guys. Weasels are always bad guys.
So true.
And in the bar, he was like, how much can I pay you for that motor car that you have? And he signs over Toad Hall for the motor car, but the motor car was stolen by the weasels. So then when he gets in trouble, he didn't know he bought a stolen car.
Oh, okay, got it.
Then the bar owner comes to be a witness, and he says, Mr. Toad tried to sell me a stolen car. Like, he lies.
Wow.
So then Mr. Toad gets put in jail
Dang.
Then the horse sneaks him out of jail.
Oh.
Then the police are after
He
him.
oughta. He's the one who got him into this mess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then the police are after him, and then they find out that the weasels are living in Toad Hall. So then they have to go try to steal the deed where he wrote that you can have Toad Hall for this motor car to prove that he's innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually they prove that he's innocent, and then all is well and good.
What a wild ride. That's not even the wild ride. That's just the movie.
But so at no point does it have anything to do with him going to hell.
Drinking and driving.
Well, or going to hell. What? Yeah. Why did you add that?
Fanfic.
I don't get it. I can't even like draw a line. Like I can't make it work in my head.
Well, it is confusing because a lot of the classic rides are just kind of summaries of the movie.
Right, but this is not.
So it's not unheard of for a Disney ride to have an original plot. But the question is, why is the original plot this drinking and driving? Okay.
I don't think you're supposed to think that you're drinking and driving.
Oh, really?
Because he does go to court in the movie. He does get sentenced, but it's not for drinking and driving, it's for stealing a car.
Is that what's also... So tell me what happens in the ride now. Because, like...
In the ride, you go through Toad Hall.
Uh-huh.
You go through the bar scene, but that was added. Like, that was added after Disney World added it. So that wasn't in the original Disneyland version,
really?
The bar scene. Yes.
Oh.
So that's why I don't think that that's supposed to be... But then to us, we're making these connections.
Because, yeah, you're in a bar, then you're in a car.
You're in a bar, you're in a car, you're driving, you're all over the place.
Seuss, but you're in a bar, you're in a car, you go far.
And then you get put in jail. Of course you do. You know what I mean? Like, in your head, this makes sense, but that's not at all what happened.
Oh.
In the movie, he goes to the bar, and that's where he meets the weasels and gets and gets the car.
So, question. Okay, so we're not drinking and driving. So, in the ride, Mr. Toad is driving a car, right? Or is he not driving a car?
So
he's done.
Interestingly, in the movie, you don't see him driving this car at all, but you know, of course, that he did. In the ride, if you're supposed to be Mr. Toad, which they don't really say, then you're driving the car, and that's why you're all over the place, which makes sense.
Okay.
I think that you're supposed to be Mr. Toad driving this car.
That's
and
very classic
Mr. Toad is reckless. You know that he got in trouble with this horse for slamming into stuff. So now, of course, in a car, he's going to slam into stuff. And there's like a chicken coop at one point. You know what I mean? Where anyway, so that's what you're doing. It's just interesting that they add this. In the movie, there's this like, oh, you get proven innocent, and then you go home with your friends and happily ever after. I cannot wrap my head around hey, instead of that, for these little kids coming to actually live the ride, let's put them in hell.
Yeah, the ending.
Wow. I don't have a problem with it.
I do.
I didn't have a problem taking my kid on it, so I'm not like... There is controversy as to whether it's...
I don't have that kind of a problem with that.
Well, that is kind of the...
I have a, like, head scratch problem. It doesn't make any sense.
I have a problem with it from that point of view.
Story-wise.
Now that I've seen the movie. Before, I was like,
how
okay,
did we get here?
Okay, they're teaching you a lesson about drunk driving. That's interesting. Whatever.
Did you find any information about, like, when they were making the ride, like, what the thought process
I tried and tried and tried and didn't find anything like that.
Isn't.
I'm not saying it's not out there. Like, it could be out there and I just didn't find it. I didn't search correctly or whatever, but I did not find that, because I was like, why?
I would love to ask somebody.
I would love to talk
just to know.
Yeah. It's just, that part is very weird. So anyway, it does have a little bit of controversy around whether this is even appropriate for kids. It's hard really for us as people that weren't alive when these first came out to really understand what things were like, because I recently read that in Disneyland, when it first opened, there was a lingerie store on Main Street.
The Wizard of Bras.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because now that wouldn't happen, but you would think that things would have been more conservative back in the 50s. Yeah. So that's another like head scratcher for me. You know what I mean? You would think that Yeah, I just think that it would have been more conservative. Like
Right.
everything I've seen and read and stuff makes it seem like that's accurate, but I guess in some ways, no.
Yeah.
But it did shut down pretty quickly.
The bra shop, yeah.
Weird thing to be on Main Street.
Definitely. It just doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the stuff. That's it. We should do a whole episode on Main Street.
On the original stuff. Fascinating. Yeah.
There's so much cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna continue. So it was originally the bits of things that they were thinking of originally when they were conceptualizing this ride was the roller coaster, which obviously didn't happen.
Right.
But then they also considered making this dark ride either about Sleepy Hollow, where the Headless Horseman would be chasing you. Talk about scary.
That would be scary, but I can picture it.
I can too. You know? I think it could be a really fun ride.
Yeah. Maybe they thought because it's so foresty that it's too similar to at the time Snow White, which was all forest.
And Mary Poppins was considered. Poor Mary Poppins, considered and then gotten like we're still sore from the Epcot thing. Apparently, they've been talking about doing Mary Poppins stuff for
forever and ever. Yeah. That's great. I wish it would have been Mary Poppins, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like we would still have it today.
Oh, here's the official closing date for Walt Disney World was September 7th, 1998.
Yeah, girl, I was not around.
Okay.
That's wild. That's a wild ride.
Yes. So another part that I love, I find very interesting is when in early 1995, in early 1997, sources revealed that they were planning to the Orlando Centennial that they were planning to close Mr. Toad's. This is pre-Facebook. This is pre, Twitter, Instagram, and all that stuff.
Right.
So people were so enraged about it that they were having like protests
about it closing. Wow.
Yeah, but they you couldn't have like a social media campaign, which right now would be like A, easy. B, you'd get like a ton of people. Back then they're doing it like here. They had a website that you could go to. So I mean the internet was of course around.
Yes.
But you could go to that website and they would send you
early days of the internet, 1998.
Yeah, 97 even.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would send, or you could print, or they would send you like a postcard with the address for Walt Disney, the company, so that you could tell them that you're upset.
Write a letter.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they called themselves Toadies.
Cute.
And they would stage like protests about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
People who love going to hell.
Yeah.
Time after time.
Yeah, but their decision to close it made sense because most kids at that time and even the generation before hadn't really seen this movie.
Yeah.
They wanted to replace it with Winnie the Pooh, which is an older franchise,
yes.
but it has been kept alive through constant TV, movies, stuff like that. Toys.
Yeah. It's also just had way more cultural impact than Mr. Toad.
Yeah.
Differences
between Disneyland and Disney World. The main difference is that the Disney World version, when it came to us as an opening day attraction, there were two different tracks that essentially took you on two different stories. But in both situations, you wind up in hell, in case you were wondering.
Okay.
So you either wound up going one way or you wound up going another, and they were slightly different, but not.
Oh, they were just slightly different.
Yeah, you might go in one room of Toad Hall versus something else. I didn't write down the specifics because they're not
major.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't impact the story.
Okay.
The story is basically the same.
Gotcha.
Although, like I said, I don't think that this really tells the story of the movie, so
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Original story either way.
Yeah, it's fun to look at. It's fun to go on as a wow. This has been here since the beginning.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to go on it.
Yeah, and I mean, you should if you go to Disneyland. And I mean, I assume it'll stay there for a while because they did face a lot of backlash over it when they closed it in Disney World.
Yeah,
although they don't seem to mind doing that.
Who knows? Yeah, I would think that people would have been upset about Snow White, but it didn't seem that way.
The website was called savetoad.com, by the way, which is still online.
I want to go.
Yeah, you should. And then they were selling shirts with it had a picture of a dead J. Thaddeus Toad on the front and a message on the back reading, "Ask me why Mickey is killing Mr. Toad."
Oh my god.
Brutal.
That is so extra.
Yeah. And in May 1998, a plane flew over Disney World dragging a banner that said, "Save Mr. Toad's Wild Ride." And then next to it was the park president's phone number. So there were some pretty intense, like, we're coming after you people about this ride.
I see.
Yeah. Anyway, so when Winnie the Pooh opened, there are some, like, Easter eggs in Winnie the Pooh. There's 2 different pictures in Owl's house. One of them is of Mr. Toad and Mole, and then the other one is of it's Mr. Owl getting the deed. So that's or Owl, just deed. Owl getting the deed. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. So the kind of like it's supposed to be, I don't know, cute.
Yes, symbolic passing of the torch.
Less cute is the Mr. Toad statue in the Pet Cemetery at Haunted Mansion.
This would be a great tattoo if anyone is interested in getting a Pet Cemetery tattoo sleeve. It
is kind of hidden in the back.
Yeah, it's like deep. It's such an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Because it's so off the beaten path, and
I think
who even remembers this ride about a toad, and it's in the Haunted Mansion.
I think everybody remembers this ride.
No, I think everybody. Well,
anybody that was around.
Right, everybody who was around remembers the ride, but to whatever 5-year-old coming off the Haunted Mansion, they don't even understand why the toad is in the Haunted Mansion. Like, yes, he's dead, but you know what I mean?
Right.
It's because he's dead. It's because he's a ghost.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is a fun and quirky Easter egg. It's a little morbid.
That's what I think I love about it. I almost wish...
They're kind of making fun of themselves a little bit, don't you think?
Yes, and also I wish that everything that closed in Disney World got a Pet Cemetery or something.
Yeah.
Because we all, like, the people who remember it love it. I love that Mr. Toad thing is there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even alive.
Right.
As I've learned on this podcast.
Well, you were alive.
Right.
You were just an infant.
I just wasn't going. I was a newborn. I was just a babe.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't eligible to potentially not drink and drive and go to hell.
All right. So that pretty much wraps it up for me.
I think the most noteworthy thing about, there's a lot that's really interesting about this, but for me, the most noteworthy thing is this is the prime example I think of when people refer to letter writing campaigns.
Yes.
And how passionate the fans are of Disney parks.
Yeah, they got brutal.
The Toad people, they went hard. And even if you go to the website right now, it's well, that rat Michael Eisner finally did it. He closed the ride. They're so filled with rage. It's almost
these people have to still be paying for the website too.
Yeah,
which is funny.
GoDaddy's happy to get the money. I think it's so funny that it's a little bit funny how riled up people are about this, because we are theme parks are a huge part of the hobby segment of both of our lives.
Yeah.
I think it's our main interest, So I would say if there's anyone who could have sympathy for the level of intensity, I think it's us. But even I find that to be totally ridiculous. So you know what I mean? I think it's a little bit funny to be honest.
Well, what's your favorite ride though?
I'm glad you asked me that. They already took all my favorites.
Oh.
The Great Movie Ride is dead.
What's your favorite now?
Probably my favorite current ride is either See, this is so tough because it changes all the time. But if I could ride any one ride right now, it might be either It's a Small World or Spaceship Earth or Frozen Ever After. I've got a lot of favorites. The People Mover,
Yeah,
obviously.
for me,
Honestly, it's probably the People Mover.
if they were trying to tell us that they're going to take away the People Mover or Cosmic Rewind, which are my two favorite rides, I think
Cosmic Rewind.
Yeah,
I would be upset.
I would be like, okay, is there a group I can join? I don't know that I would be making these, you know.
You're a t-shirt
I am a t-shirt
owner.
maker.
You could print a shirt that says "That rat Bob Iger took my
I could.
my Galaxy Guardians of the Galaxy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be really upset.
I didn't do any of those things when the Great Movie Ride closed.
I know.
I just understood that it was a symptom of what was happening in Disney, and I was just gonna keep it moving.
We do like to trust that they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And in my opinion, it is much less egregious to replace an old IP that has kind of fallen out of the cultural lexicon with a more culturally relevant figure than to replace something with nothing, which also happens at Walt Disney World.
That's way worse.
So I'll take Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
You know, at least it's something. And Winnie the Pooh is a good ride.
It's cute.
It's cute. It's not one that I ride very often, but it is physical sets. It tells a cute little story.
Yeah.
I like that it's like narratively all in one little story that you go on. I think it's really cute. Yeah,
it is cute. And I mean, for a dark ride, it's got a little bump up in technology with the kind of like bouncing that you do and the swaying when you're in the river or whatever.
Yeah, like the Tigger bouncing.
Yeah.
I think that part is really cute.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
So yeah, there's a lot worse things to be replaced.
They also have a Nautilus Easter egg in the Winnie the Pooh queue, if you didn't know that. So like, Winnie the Pooh, full of Easter eggs.
Because Winnie the Pooh also partially took over the land that was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Right.
The attraction in Walt Disney World, which was like weirdly kind of in between Fantasyland and like Tomorrowland.
Yeah. It's kind of complicated though, right? Because I think that the tree that has the Nautilus actually got moved.
It did.
Yeah. So it's not that the ride is in the place.
The tree was there. That's
But now,
And now that tree isn't there, but the Nautilus is still there.
Right.
That is a confusing Easter egg.
Right. Because now it's Little Mermaid, really, that's there.
Right. And the Little Mermaid does also have a Nautilus tribute in the queue.
It does.
So there you go. They got their bases covered. Yeah. All right, Morgan, you want to guess what I did?
Yeah, I guess It's a Small World.
You're right.
Oh, good. Finally.
We both got it right.
I was telling him earlier.
Predictable stuff.
No, you picked what you like.
I did pick what I just thought had the most.
That's why I was surprised when I wasn't right before, because I'm like, oh, Jake loves Carousel Progress. Of course, he's gonna pick Carousel Progress. But then you picked something we've never been on.
I just thought the Rocket Rod story had so much drama.
It does have so much drama.
I couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
The one I'm going to tell today has a little bit less drama, but it offers an insight into the way things were in what many would consider to be like the height of Imagineering. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting in a different way. Or WED, as they called it then.
In a WED way.
Oh, WED way. But yeah, WED Enterprises, which now is called Imagineering, what they were up to at the time and the way that they conceptualize these things is pretty different from the process now, especially because Walt was so directly involved with everything going on here. You can really start to see the different tone of the creative direction of the company. And it starts from pretty early on. The first It's a Small World debuted at the 1964 World's Fair, and it was kind of an afterthought. It very nearly was not created.
Really?
It was constructed in its entirety in less than a year because of how last minute the idea was. So the stakes were kind of high, which makes the story a little bit more interesting. Ford and General Electric had paid Disney to create their pavilions for the World's Fair. So we should back up. The World's Fair. What is a World's Fair? You've probably never been to one, listener. I know I've never been to one. a World's Fair, other than some would consider Epcot to be like a permanent theme park version of a World's Fair. That's at least what they were setting out to do.
Mm-hmm.
But a World's Fair was this thing that usually took place in a huge plot of public land, like a big park or something. And it was hosted in different cities. And it was meant to boost local economies.
Like the Olympics, in the same way that the Olympics does.
You made this comparison to me earlier, and I was like, wow, the World's Fair is just like the Olympics.
Yeah.
But, like, yes, it's meant to boost their local economies. And in the way that the Olympics bring together athletes from all over the world, this brought together governments and titans of corporate industry together to, like, showcase inventions and culture. See, I say inventions like it's a word because Epcot has like totally taken over my mind. I meant innovations, but now my mouth naturally forms inventions.
Yeah,
but
you've said that word more, I'm sure, in your life.
And invention probably, and innovations also is based on the World's Fair model, so it's all the same anyway.
I was always shocked that this actually, they spent so much money, like
a ton.
Like if a city gets the Olympics, they spend so much money creating like all these spaces and buildings and stuff just for this purpose. It's shocking to me that they think they're going to make, or they do maybe make money off of it when they spend so much money.
Sometimes they're total failures, and that's the drama of them, is that sometimes they like totally ruin cities, destroy businessmen. There's high stakes. Some World's Fairs are total failures and they lose millions of dollars for the city. But what's so compelling about them is their scale, like you're talking about. They build these whole cities to host these things, and most of the time they end up being great economically, and this one certainly was. The New York World's Fair was an absolute hit, thanks in no small part to these staple pavilions that are being constructed by Disney, which are huge draws for the public because they ignite the interest with the whimsy and imagination of Disney, and then while they have them there, they also do this brand injection into your brain where it makes you really want to support these companies. And obviously for General Electric, it was all about Carousel of Progress and the way that electricity and technology was making life easier. Very convenient message for them, but the attraction was high quality and people absolutely loved it.
Those were in the same World's Fair?
Yeah, babe. And it's a small world being like something that totally reshaped what theme park attractions would end up being. It's kind of amazing, everything that ended up happening. But who
sponsored that one?
So Pepsi sponsored it, but it was in partnership with UNICEF.
Okay.
So
that's what I've seen.
Right. So they're trying to raise this money. Everything Pepsi makes off It's a Small World, which, okay, so the ticket structure of the World's Fair is similar to early Disneyland, except it's not tiered. It's just hard tickets, and the difference is that children were a lower price point than adults. So the 60 cents for children, 95 cents for adults.
They dug a river or wild.
Yeah, so they did dig a river for this, which people thought was wild for the time and also for the time frame, because less than a year to do everything. But it ended up being hugely influential that they dug a river, and we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, Pepsi approached Disney with a plan to create their pavilion attraction as a tribute to UNICEF and the good that they were doing in the world. Pepsi saw it as this like potentially massive public shift in the way they perceived Pepsi, because Pepsi was doing something so benevolent. Good for them. Disney gets involved. Walt Disney says yes because he can't say no, and here we go. We're getting started on the It's a Small World journey. This is the part of the story where Disney is like putting together his dream team, Ocean's 11 style, of like his go-to experts and themed entertainment to try to get this thing done in under a year. So the first person that he recruits is Mary Blair, who's responsible for the attraction's whimsical design and color styling. Mary Blair was an influential watercolors artist in California before she began her career in animation, which was born out of the need to make money after the hard economic times of the areas that she was living in. And she quickly fell out of love with animation. She didn't like the work that she was given. And when she ended up being brought back into Disney, it was at the request of Walt, who had an eye for the way that she was able to put colors together in such interesting ways, and her childlike approach to art. Everything was very simple, clean lines, recognizable shapes, but paired together in a way that was like whimsical and fantastical and cohesive, and no matter what the setting was in. So he was really attracted to that. Mary Blair ended up coming on in 1950 to do storyboards and concept art specifically for Cinderella. And then she would go on to do Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan as well. And the concept art that she develops for these is like the original guideline stylistically that the animators, background artists go off of to create the film. So basically, she dictates the style and then they create the actual art that ends up in the film under her supervision. So with that kind of background and having such success creating those total landscapes, Walt Disney was like, okay, so obviously Mary Blair's got to come do It's a Small World. So you can actually see her in the Disneyland It's a Small World. There's a doll that's meant to be in her likeness that was created as a tribute for her in the Western Europe section, which is pretty early on. If you look at the Eiffel Tower that they have there, there's a figure on the Eiffel Tower that's holding a balloon and looking up at it, and it's meant to be Mary Blair. She's got like short blonde hair and a groovy floral dress because Mary had a reputation for dressing eccentrically. And if you don't see her, it's because she's in a weird spot as you pass by, as I've learned from watching video. So if you pass the Eiffel Tower and then kind of turn around in your boat, you'll very clearly see her.
Why? Why did they make it hard?
I don't know. You'll have to ask them.
But we didn't get one in Disney World?
I don't think so. Not. I think our Eiffel Tower is different. There are slight differences in our It's a Small World to there It's a Small World. Like many Disneyland attractions, the scenes and characters were created by animator Mark Davis, whose wife Alice Davis designed all the costumes for the dolls. And we'll get into that because the dolls they're really something. And then Raleigh Crump, who is a renowned Imagineer, designed all the toys and the supplemental figures, like the hot air balloons and the roller coasters and all the different stuff that you end up seeing throughout the thing. So the animated dolls were designed and sculpted by Blaine Gibson, and the dolls' facial designs were developed by Gibson and Greg S. Marinello, who were influential parts of Disney at the time. And the dolls, with their big heads and their tiny features, were inspired directly by Mary Blair's series of Hallmark cards that she had done under the Walt Disney label in the 1940s.
Interesting.
So Mary Blair gets this job designing Hallmark cards, and then that style is what's used as the reference point to create the rest of the attraction. Wild.
Yeah. Could you see pictures of the Hallmark cards online?
You can. If you Google Mary Blair Hallmark cards, you can see lines and lines of the cards, and they're absolutely delightful. You can also see how influential they are on the style of It's a Small World, really in terms of proportions, because the heads and the facial features are like exactly like the dolls. Okay, I should also say this about the dolls while we're here. Under the direction of designer Alice Davis, Mark Davis's wife, and like the
integral costume,
absolutely legendary costume designer for Walt Disney.
Yeah.
She sewed over 300 costumes. She and her team sewed over 300 costumes. And I didn't know this. All of the materials that they used for the costumes are authentic to the regions that the dolls are from.
Oh, that's amazing.
So the Scottish kilts are made of wool, and the costumes for the India section are made out of like the silk that they would use to create those outfits. So it's a really interesting approach that they use to get the cultural the cultural texture of each of those things correct. Anyway, Walt Disney was involved with the design of each of the animated dolls' faces, and he was regularly part of all of the doll painting sessions. So he would come and supervise the painting of the dolls, which is quite the first-hand touch. But under such tight they were like this family of go, 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 because they had less than a year and so much to do. And the scale of the project was so huge that everyone thought they were going to fail. So they all kind of worked together on everything to get it done any way they could.
Yeah.
Also on Walt's list of top tier fabricators are the Sherman Brothers, who had worked with Walt Disney on Mary Poppins, which he loved. Feed the Birds was his favorite song. So he gave them the monumental task of, originally they were going to play each country's national anthem.
Oh my gosh.
But it sounded like a cacophony of sound.
Yeah.
It was terrible. So he got the Sherman Brothers on board, and he was like, I need you to write something
the catchiest song that's ever been made.
Yes, something super catchy, super cheerful and memorable, but also something that could be translated syllables wise in every language that they were trying to represent. Mm-hmm. So it was this huge task, but obviously what you get is one of the most iconic songs ever
all
written.
Time. Yeah.
The idea of Small World ends up being a salute to the children of the world, designed by Walt Disney, presenting animated figures frolicking in miniature settings of many lands. The visitors are carried past the scenes in small boats, which qualifies It's a Small World as a old mill type attraction, which was just any boat that went through scenes and tunnels.
Okay.
So that was the reference, that was the inspiration point, and the rest is kind of brand new. It had never been done on the scale that It's a Small World was doing. So at the World's Fair, above the pavilion was this 120-foot tower called the Tower of the Four Winds that was designed by Raleigh Crump, and that was kind of the marquee for the pavilion to draw people in. Mm-hmm. And it was just this kind of eclectic structure of a bunch of different shapes and spirals and ribbons that could be moved by the wind and free flowed and kind of appeared to dance with its different elements. It was very charming. It was very childlike and abstract, so it was a good representation of what was to come in the attraction, which was like very... It's not realism, it's fantasy. You know what I mean? And yes. I think this definitely is a good primer for that. So it ends up being a huge success, and they sell over 1 million tickets for children and adults. They were collected, and the World's Fair ran for 2 seasons. And over those 2 seasons, they collected the funds and then donated all of them to UNICEF. So UNICEF gets a boatload of money from the success of It's a Small World. And then after 2 seasons of operating at the fair, the ride begins to move permanently to Disneyland in 1966. So the Tower of the Four Winds does not make the move, and they're going to design a new marquee for the Disneyland version.
What happened to it?
It's gone. It's dead. They got our boy. The Tower of the Four Winds, nothing happens to it, which is very sad.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it gives some extra work to Raleigh Crump and Mary Blair, who are both brought over for the move and the new version of It's a Small World for Disneyland. And part of that is one of the most iconic symbols of It's a Small World, which is the facade and the clock tower.
Yeah.
Those were not at the World's Fair, so they're exclusive. Well, they're not exclusive anymore, but they were, originally for the Disneyland version, and that like character parade clock 3D moment that happens there is definitely one of the things that I think people probably think of first when they think of It's a Small World.
The wow factor of the building is just, I mean, it's jaw-dropping.
Yeah. It is gorgeous. That is one thing. At
night, especially.
Yeah. That is one thing I really wish we had in the
I wish so.
Disney World
as well.
version. Mm-hmm. I see why we don't. Like, the weather is the sun and all that, but whatever.
No. I don't. Has somebody said that's the reason?
Well, it's just harder upkeep to have something directly exposed to the elements than to have something inside.
Sure.
But
yeah.
Rude. I mean, we kind of have it, but anyway, if you haven't seen the Disneyland version, it's this facade of geometrical shapes that vaguely come together to kind of represent different landmarks from around the world, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, the Eiffel Tower, temples, all that kind of stuff. But it's also got this clock tower feature where when there's a new hour that chimes, these little figures come out and it pops out almost like a cuckoo clock, but way cuter and more impressive.
Yes.
So anyway, there are small improvements made to the ride at Disneyland, and it kind of immediately becomes a staple. Something that's so great about It's a Small World is that because it's on this boat system, it's very efficient. It carries a lot of people through. So at the World's Fair, when there were other attractions, people could not get onto them because they were so busy. But there was always room on It's a Small World, not because it wasn't popular, but because it had a major capacity advantage,
right,
which is really nice.
mm-hmm.
And it's also one of the key decisions that leads Disney to develop Pirates of the Caribbean as a boat ride instead of a walkthrough attraction. So the reason that you're riding in a boat for Pirates of the Caribbean and not walking through the town is because of It's a Small World at the World's Fair.
A walkthrough just seems like such a backward step.
They were fixated on walkthroughs.
I know.
They wanted Haunted Mansion to be a walkthrough. They wanted Pirates to be a walkthrough. Wax Museum. Yeah. Different times.
Yeah.
Since then, versions are open now at Disneyland, Magic Kingdom, Tokyo Disneyland, Disneyland Paris, and Hong Kong Disneyland. Robert Sherman, one of the Sherman brothers' youngest son, Robert J. Sherman, has said that the It's a Small World song is the single most performed and most translated piece of music ever produced. And in 2014, it was estimated that the song had been played nearly 50 million times worldwide on the attractions themselves alone. So not counting people streaming the song, not counting YouTube plays, not counting anything. Just on the attraction, that many rotations of the song.
Honestly, I would have thought it would be more.
More? Well, great news. Every day, the number goes up significantly because it's on a constant
because it's on a loop. Yeah.
Yep. Since 1997, It's a Small World Holiday adds almost 1 million lights, jingle bells, deck the halls, and It's a Small World mashup soundtrack to Disneyland. So Disneyland gets a holiday version, which is super cute.
It's amazing.
They put some holiday song. You've been on, yeah?
Yeah.
Is it magical?
It is.
I'm sad we don't get one, especially for this fact that I think will infuriate you. Every version of the ride around the world except for Orlando has gotten a holiday overlay. Every single one.
That does upset me. I wish we had more holiday overlays. What is going on?
Well, because it's the most visited tourist destination in the world, which they love to throw back in our face.
Wait, that means we should get less?
Yeah, because of downtime. For operations reasons. They don't want to close the ride for extended periods of time when they don't have to, beyond the necessity of maintenance.
Sure.
That's what they've said in the past. So, no Small World holiday for us, but it's still hanging on. They also added Disney characters to most versions of them. Mm-hmm. We don't have them in Walt Disney World yet, but you've seen the Disneyland one with the characters.
I love it.
What do you think?
I love it. I like it, and I understand it's controversial. Mm-hmm. People don't want you messing with
the classics.
History. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, it's not like the whole thing was changed. They just added a few dolls. I like it.
I agree. I think there was a time where It's a Small World would be enough to hold the attention of children and families. But now that the world is so different, I think that it gives people something to hang on to more than just like, okay, we're in a doll show. The dolls are kind of moving. It's just themed attractions have come a long way. People expect a lot.
They also don't overtake the scenes in any way. They're the same size. Mm-hmm. They're the same aesthetic.
They were meant to be
blend in
that Mary Blair art style. They're inspired by it for sure.
They blend in, and they're put in the areas that the character would be from. So I like it.
I don't mind. I think it is nice for like the younger audience to have something to recognize.
Well, I like it too.
No, I think it's also just neat. But like, if you're gonna have to justify it, which you do, because people are mad, which they always are, then I think there is a good logistical reason for it to exist as well, beyond being like kind of aesthetically cool, which like I think they look neat, so I'm not mad at them.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind if they came to the Walt Disney World version.
I wouldn't mind either,
especially because ours isn't the original anyway.
Right.
I feel like that puts it a little bit more up for grabs.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could make bigger changes to it.
Yeah.
I would be happy to see It's a Small World continue to evolve in some type of way. I think that's a good thing for attractions.
Yeah.
No matter which hallway you put the Hatbox Ghost in. Anyway, thanks for coming on a wild ride in a small world with us. We hope you've enjoyed hearing the stories of these attractions that, are so core to Disney. It's fun to do Fantasyland because Fantasyland is like the heart of the Magic Kingdom parks, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you separate the castle and Main Street, and then I would say that's probably
right. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I could have done the castle, couldn't I? Well, it depends on how far you want to stretch the boundaries.
Yeah.
What do you think, listener? Is Cinderella Castle or Sleeping Beauty Castle, is that a Main Street thing or is that a Fantasyland thing? Tell us in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of comments, if you're watching this on YouTube, hello. There's a visual version of our podcast if you're listening. It's on the YouTube channel Neverland Navigation Co. And if you're watching there and seeing our smiling faces, then drop us a like and subscribe to the channel and tell us which land the castle is in. And we would appreciate it.
Yeah. We're also on social media at Neverland Navco.
And we're on podcast platforms.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to us, thank you. And if you would like to leave a review of the program, then that would make us smile.
Yeah.
That would be great. Also, if you want custom shirt designs in a quality way, then you can visit the Neverland Navigation Etsy shop, which is a great local small business print shop that can create your custom orders and has some theme park inspired designs on the shop as well. So
yeah, but you could send a picture of anything and I can put it on a shirt.
Maybe you want your own deed inspired by Wild Ride or something. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Send those custom shirt orders in.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching or listening. We really appreciate it. This has been so much fun. And until next time, we'll see you on our next adventure. Goodbye.
Bye.